In Rhodoport, South Africa, a major telecommunications company operates its primary customer service hub, RoodeComm. This facility runs 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, relying on hundreds of agents at their workstations to resolve network issues and handle billing disputes. But call volume doesn't arrive in a steady, predictable stream. This graph shows the reality of their daily demand. At 3 in the morning, the incoming lines are practically dead. Then, starting at 10 a.m., the volume spikes aggressively, staying elevated until roughly 2 in the afternoon. If we zoom out to look at a full month, the data reveals a secondary shockwave. On the first of the month, when billing statements hit customer inboxes, that daily mid-morning surge compounds into a massive overall spike in demand. RoodeComm has to handle these surges within the boundaries of strict physical constraints. The building only holds a set number of desks, and the servers can only route a finite number of active phone lines. Those physical limitations create a hard mathematical ceiling on what the operation can process at any given second. As you can see, when the highest daily and monthly surges overlap, the incoming demand completely breaches the facility's maximum output limit. The intuitive solution is simply to lease a larger building, install more desks, and hire enough agents to comfortably cover that absolute highest peak. But if you build to accommodate a spike that only happens 3 days a month, you are paying for empty desks, idle servers, and unutilized labor for the other 27 days. The quiet off-peak hours turn into a severe financial drain. An operations manager has to engineer a system that can absorb these extreme, predictable surges without bankrupting the company maintaining empty seats during the off hours. To solve this, we first need to define capacity. In operations management, capacity is not the physical size of the room or the total number of desks. It is the maximum rate of value-added activity that a process can achieve. Because it is a rate, the dimension of time is non-negotiable. An operations capacity must be measured in units per time period, like calls resolved per hour. 50 agents on a floor means nothing until you calculate how many tickets they can close in a 60-minute window. If every agent works at maximum speed with zero network lag and no complex calls, you hit what is known as design capacity. This is the theoretical maximum output your system can achieve under perfect conditions. A common error is building an operating plan that expects to consistently hit that 100% threshold. Perfect conditions do not exist in reality. Servers require scheduled downtime for maintenance. Software updates force restarts. Human beings require mandatory breaks, shift handoffs, and time to recover from difficult interactions. This graphic details the shift from theoretical to realistic metrics. Once you factor in those inevitable operational realities, you arrive at your effective capacity. This is the true functional output rate you can actually rely on. Building a schedule based on a theoretical maximum guarantees a catastrophic system failure the moment reality asserts itself and hits the system's true constraints. Once you know your effective capacity, you can deploy specific strategies to handle demand spikes. The first approach is the level capacity plan. Under this model, the operation completely ignores the fluctuations of the market. The facility produces at a steady, unwavering pace every single hour of the day. To make this work, the operation uses physical inventory as a buffer. During quiet periods, the excess output is stored away, building up a stockpile that can be drawn down when customer demand inevitably spikes. This works perfectly in manufacturing. An automotive plant can run a consistent daily shift, build thousands of non-perishable components ahead of a seasonal buying rush, and simply park the excess vehicles in a holding lot. Let's apply that logic to the data at RoodeComm. Call centers deal exclusively in services, and services are defined by simultaneity. They are consumed by the customer at the exact moment they are produced by the agent. You cannot pre-process a technical support call at 3 in the morning and place that resolved complaint on a warehouse shelf waiting for the customer to actually dial the number at 10 a.m. Because you cannot inventory customer service, a level capacity plan is useless for a call center. Managers have to look for dynamic alternatives. The second macro strategy is the chase demand plan. Instead of holding production steady, the operation attempts to dynamically stretch and shrink its effective capacity limit, expanding and contracting the workforce to perfectly match the market's jagged demand line. For RoodeComm, this means forcing the overnight staff to stay late or paying premium overtime to the morning shift to cover that daily mid-morning rush. To handle those massive month-end billing surges, the company would partner with an agency to bus in a large cohort of temporary contract workers for just those few heavy days. The problem lies in the hidden costs. Scaling a human workforce up and down requires constant spending on recruitment fees, background checks, training, and eventually costly severance. More critically, relying on a constantly rotating roster of temporary workers introduces severe operational risk. You place inexperienced agents on the front lines during your most chaotic, high-stress periods, leading to a steep drop in quality control. Chasing demand balances the capacity equation on a spreadsheet, but the intense organizational friction it creates usually degrades the quality of the service itself. That brings us to the final approach, demand management. This strategy requires a total shift in focus. Instead of changing the internal operation to fit the market, the operation influences the customer to fit the system entirely. The telecom industry relies on this. By offering cheaper rates or free data during off-peak hours, they successfully incentivize thousands of users to shift away from the congested daytime network. At the call center level, RoodeComm can deploy automated callback scheduling. If a customer calls during the 10 a.m. spike, the system offers them a guaranteed return call at 2 p.m., artificially smoothing out the surge and moving the demand to a quieter window. This chart shows how managers track these shifting behaviors. By comparing cumulative load against cumulative capacity, they can identify the gap, labeled here as the backlog. In a physical factory, a backlog is just a stack of unboxed widgets. But in a live call center, that gap represents dropped calls, overloaded network servers, and truly furious customers. Because no single strategy is perfect, successful operations rely on an aggregate plan. Managers level what they can, chase when they must, and actively manipulate customer demand to ensure that backlog gap never breaks the system. Even with a robust aggregate plan, perfectly matching supply to demand is mathematically impossible. Human behavior contains inherent, unpredictable variability. Whenever the incoming volume temporarily exceeds your effective capacity, the inevitable result is the formation of a waiting line, or a queue. The system breaks down into these core stages. Arrivals enter, hold in the queue, process through the servers, and exit as served. When queues mismanage that volume, specific negative customer behaviors emerge. The first is balking. This occurs when an arrival assesses the length of the line, decides the wait isn't worth their time, and refuses to even join the system. The second behavior is reneging. Here, the customer joins the queue and commits to waiting, but the process takes so long that they eventually abandon the line out of sheer frustration. The third is jockeying, a chaotic behavior where customers aggressively switch back and forth between parallel lines, hoping to find a faster route. Balking and reneging represent immediate, quantifiable losses of revenue. Every person who drops out of that queue is a customer who took their business elsewhere because the system's capacity planning failed. When you cannot afford to increase your physical throughput to eliminate the queue, you have to utilize your final safeguard, hacking the customer's psychological perception of time. The first rule of queuing psychology is simple. Unoccupied time feels substantially longer than occupied time. To solve this, a call center must give the waiting customer a task. Implementing an interactive voice menu, requesting account details up front, or providing engaging audio content occupies the caller and artificially compresses their perception of the delay. Next is the rule regarding anxiety. Unexplained waits feel much longer than explained waits. If a customer is left in silence, anxiety builds and reneging spikes. Providing an automated queue number or an estimated wait time diffuses that tension by setting a clear boundary. Finally, there is the rule of fairness. Unfair waits feel exponentially longer than equitable waits. If your routing software accidentally lets a new caller skip ahead of someone who has been holding for 20 minutes, it triggers immediate outrage. The system architecture must enforce strict first-come, first-serve sequencing. Operational mastery requires balancing the cold mathematics of system capacity with the highly subjective science of human perception to keep the entire operation flowing.